Hey guys, it is February the 10th, 2025, and I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend this past weekend. I hope everybody's having a great day so far today. I'm sure that by the time that you're watching this video, it's probably going to be kind of late, but I hope everybody had a really good day today. What I want to talk about today is, what led me to drink in the fashion that I did. Why did I start drinking the way that I did? What led me down the path? To the point where I was drinking a half a gallon of vodka every single day and plus more. What possessed me to want to drink in the fashion that I did, and that's gonna be the topic for today's video. I didn't write any notes down. I started thinking about this earlier when I was taking a shower about what I wanted to discuss today, and I almost got my notebook out and started taking notes for today's video, but after thinking about it, I was like, I'm just gonna sit down and just do this on the fly and just talk about it. Without any notes, I'm just gonna pull all this stuff right from the heart and just discuss this today. So what led me to the point to where I even started playing around with drugs and alcohol, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here they're going to be able to relate to what I'm talking about, but it all started from a very, very young age. Very young. I'm talking about like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Going up in that age range. And I think, one of the biggest things for me was I just never felt comfortable in my own skin. I just never did. I can't remember being really young and, trying to make friends. And, don't get me wrong, I did have friends growing up. But for some reason, I was always trying to make friends with the group of people that just weren't, they just weren't the type of people that I should have been trying to hang around with, trying to befriend. But it's just what I thought that I needed to do. And I guess, looking back, especially now, at the age that I'm at now, I'm 45 years old now, and just looking back on those days, it's ridiculous to think about now, but when you're young, especially if you're young and you moved around a lot, when you go from school to school, it's just hard to make friends and keep them, and especially if you move, at the age where I moved to this town that we're in now. It was a very, very small town, and I moved from a really small town too, but moving here, it was a really cliquey town. People had grown up here together. They had been going to school together since they were in kindergarten. They had been friends for years leading up to the time that I moved here, and they just weren't very accepting of a new person. Although the town that I live in, a lot of people moved here during the years that I moved here, back in the it was like the very early 90s when I moved here, and like I said, there were a lot of other families that were moving here at the same time. And the thing is, I've never disclosed my exact location where I live, so I don't really want to delve into the reason that a lot of people moved here, but because it'll kind of give it away. But once again, a lot of people were moving here back then, and you would think that coming to a town where a lot of people come to, especially for work, that the kids in the school would be a little bit more accepting of the new kids, but they just weren't. And like I said, I just had this idea that I needed to befriend the most popular kids in school, and that's who I gravitated towards, and that's what I really tried to become a part of. I started trying to act like them. I started to dress like them, and it wasn't the way that I dressed. It wasn't the way that I acted. It wasn't the way that I talked. None of it. I basically put on a costume every single day. And I think that's where a lot of the problems that I had began. Although there were some problems, from a younger age, but I think, that was really the catalyst of it. Because and this is so embarrassing to talk about, but I just want to be completely honest with you guys, and because I would imagine that there's a lot of other people out there who kind of went through the same thing that I did, or something very similar, and probably there's a lot of people here who kind of went down the same path that I did, the reasons why I drank the way that I did. And like I said, I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys today. At this point, it doesn't even matter. And this is stuff that, I've kind of touched on over the past year and some change since I've started the channel, but I've never really delved too deep into it, because like I said, it's kind of embarrassing, but at this point, who cares? It doesn't matter. And, the thing is, too, it really made me think about this quite a bit was the other night, I said that my father-in-law came into town and all that stuff. Well, we all went out to go have dinner on Saturday night. My father-in-law and his wife took myself and my whole family out to dinner. And the restaurant that we went to, I ended up running into somebody that I knew from way back. Hadn't seen him in years. I mean, it's been years since I've seen this individual, but saw him at the restaurant. And I had looked up because the host sat us down at the table, and we were kind of sitting in the middle of the restaurant. There were so many of us that they had to sit us at one of the larger tables, so we weren't in a booth. We were just kind of sitting in the center of the restaurant, and there was a table that was right behind ours. And, I didn't pay much attention to him, but I happened to look up at one point, and him and I just locked eyes. When I looked up and saw him and he saw me, we both acknowledged each other. And I said, "Hey, what's going on, man? Been a long time since I've seen you." And he looked at me and he said a name that is not my name. He didn't even know exactly who I was. He called me by a completely different name. In the way that he asked it, I'll just say that my name is not Matt, but that's what he said. He said, "Matt?" And I went, "No." And I told him my name, and he goes, "Oh yeah, man, I remember you." And we knew each other pretty well back when we were teenagers, but like I said, I mean, it's been 30 years since I've seen this guy, really. I got up and walked over there, and we got to talking, and we started talking about how, how we were back when we were younger, and, how far that we've come. And I started talking to him, and I actually asked him if he knew my friend that passed away here recently. And he said, "Yeah, I do know him. And I do know that he passed." And I asked him, I said, "You know what he passed away from?" And he told me, he said, "Yeah, he passed away from cirrhosis and pancreatitis." And I knew that my friend had cirrhosis. He actually found out he had cirrhosis back probably about 6 years ago, because he was working for me at the time, and he ended up in the hospital. He had gotten really sick, and he found out he had cirrhosis at that point. So it's been quite a while since he found out, but that's what he passed away from. So, just to add, just to my thought process over this weekend, I found out that the guy that just passed away from the same disease that I have right now, which is kind of scary. But the one thing about it is that he told me that he never stopped drinking fully. He had quit drinking while he was working for me after he got out of the hospital, and was doing really well, but went back to drinking again, and that's what eventually took his life. Unfortunately. And like I said, that's one of those things, it's added to my thought process over the weekend. I just really had to think about that. It's just kind of weighed on me kind of heavy. But that's neither here nor there. It's not neither here nor there, but that doesn't have to do or pertain to what I'm talking about today. I just wanted to throw that little tidbit in because I did find that out on Saturday. But like I said, we had a brief conversation, and we were just talking about, back when we were younger and all the crazy things that we used to do. And the guy that I was talking to used to be really wild, like I was when we were teenagers, and he actually invited me to join him and a group of other people that meet up on Thursday nights, and they just basically meet up at a guy's house, and they just unwind talking to each other, and they're all sober now, which I find to be really cool. Because these were all guys back in the day. We all used to party together. But they're all doing well, and they're sober, and, they just talk about things, and, they read the Bible with each other. And it was really cool to see that, that they have come so far with each other. It was just really neat to see that, because that guy was not like that back then. But my point to all this is that, this guy as well had fallen into addiction. And we all started from a very young age. And he was telling me that he is recently sober, 5 months sober, which was really good to hear for him as well. But there were so many people that I used to hang around with back in the day that have passed away. So many of them. And we were all troubled kids, all of us. We all came from different backgrounds, different situations, but all of us were troubled. And we all kind of came together because I think there was a commonality amongst all of us, and that's that we just weren't accepted into the groups of the popular kids, I guess you would say. We were all kind of the rejects. Just we didn't really fit in anywhere, but we fit in with each other because, like I said, we all had that common ground with each other that we just didn't really fit in. So what did we do? Well, we started to party with each other. We all started to smoke, and play around with alcohol and other substances as well. But for the most part, it was alcohol, and I'll just refer to it as broccoli. A lot of alcohol and a lot of broccoli back then. And what ended up happening is that feeling of loneliness, that feeling of I didn't fit in, the questioning of myself, why I wasn't accepted, why was I so different than everybody. All of a sudden, all those problems didn't really matter anymore. Once I either smoked, drank, or both, which I did a lot of too. I would do both. And I started to get this feeling of numbness. The feelings started to go away. I didn't care what people thought about me any longer, because that was something that bothered me for so many years. I was always so worried about what people thought about me. All the time. I used to lay in the bed at night, as a kid, just thinking about how I wasn't accepted and people didn't like me, and the things that people would say to me at school, because I got picked on quite a bit when I first moved here. That's one of those things I've really never ever talked about, but I was picked on quite a bit. I was a smaller person too. Most of the kids were all bigger than me. I was very skinny and very short. And I wasn't good at sports. I just never really played them. I played soccer as a kid and played some basketball and stuff like that. I did play soccer for a long period of time, but I just didn't play football or any of those other sports really. And my dad didn't watch sports either, so I just didn't really know much about sports, and I really honestly just didn't really care that much. So I didn't have that common ground with the rest of the kids. When they're sitting around the lunch table talking about the football game for the night before or something like that, I had no idea what they were talking about. I mean, they could have been speaking Egyptian for all I knew. I really couldn't relate to what they were speaking about. I would go home when I was younger, and my go-to was I liked to read. That was really like my first love. That was like the first thing that I found that kind of took me out of the situation that I was in. That feeling of loneliness, that feeling of not being accepted. I could sit down by myself, open up a book, and I could dive into it, and I could remove myself from the reality that I lived in, and I could put myself into the character in the book, and I could just, it was a way to escape. And that was the first way of escape that I found, other than just going off into the woods. My brother and I were always out in the woods doing things together. And that is one thing, too, that I will say is that, I did have my brother. Although that when we moved here, my brother made friends really easily. And, he started hanging around with all his friends. And I just didn't have a lot of friends. I just didn't. I spent a lot of time alone. There was a lot of depression that went on during that period of time because I felt so alone. And I tried so hard to make friends. And now looking back at the age that I am, I tried too hard. I think I put a lot of people off because I tried so hard to make friends with people. And if I had just been myself, I don't think I would have ran into all of the hurdles that I did making friends. People would have accepted me for who I was, but I wasn't being myself. I was trying to portray a character that was not me, and it was inauthentic, and I think people could see right through it, which really hampered my ability to make friends. And like I said, there was a lot of depression because of that. I struggled with that for, a very, very, very long time. And, even going into my teenage years, my older teenage years, I was still pretending to be somebody that I really wasn't. And that, like I said, that caused me a lot of depression because I was trying so hard and I still wasn't achieving the goals that I was trying to set for myself. I just wasn't. I wasn't making the friends. And I couldn't understand why. I was doing all the things that the other kids were doing, or at least trying to. I was acting like them, dressing like them, and they still didn't want to be my friend. And I just didn't quite understand it. And now looking back at the age I am, like I said, if I had just been myself, people would have accepted me for that. If I had just been authentic, people would have accepted me being my own authentic self. But I was young, immature. I didn't quite understand the way the world worked or any of that kind of stuff. And, it's taken me many, many years to get to the place that I'm at now. And I don't think I really started to realize how important being your authentic self is until I got sober. Because all those years, I wasn't being myself. Putting that mask on every day as a teenager and getting intoxicated and really trying to be somebody that I wasn't just progressed into my adult years. I still continued to do those types of things. And what helped me to do that was to drink alcohol. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with becoming this other person because all of a sudden, I would get drunk and do crazy things and people would laugh. People would talk about it for days on end. I'd run into somebody and they say, "Man, I heard about what you did the other day. That's so crazy." This and this and that. And I found acceptance in becoming my intoxicated self and doing crazy stunts. So after getting that acceptance from people, what did I do? Well, I just continued to do it and even do it more. And what did it take for me to do those types of things? Because it wasn't in my nature to do that type of stuff. Well, getting drunk. That's how I was able to become this other person. So every time I drank, it was like I put on a suit. And like I said, I became somebody else. And this went on for so many years. Honestly and truthfully with you guys, it went on all the way up until just a few years ago when I really got sick. And, after I'd gotten sober, talk about a challenge, coming into myself and finally discovering who I really was as a it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't easy. I'd masked these emotions that I had for so many years. And after finding sobriety, I think that was the hardest challenge for me, was dealing with my emotions, because I hadn't dealt with them in so long. I have a bad day, I drank. I have a great day, I drank. I mean, it didn't matter what. So if I had an okay day, I drank. If my car blew up, I drank. If I got a bonus check at work, like I've said over and over, I drank. It didn't matter. If I had a kid, I drank. I have to celebrate having a new child, I would get drunk. Anything, I get married, I had to drink. My brother gets married, I had to drink and be completely intoxicated at his wedding and, show my what and embarrass myself and my brother and his wife. It was just things like that, just over the years, and me continually trying to be somebody that I wasn't. And when you're doing that over and over and over for years on end, it's really depressing, because you don't feel like you can be your own authentic self. And I didn't. I felt like I had to continue to be this character that I was portraying, or people weren't going to like me. I wasn't going to be accepted. And that all went back to that little boy that didn't feel accepted. It's just crazy how, our childhood years can affect us so far into our adulthood years. And I don't know. It's just it just baffles me how, that little boy is still inside of me. That scared little boy, the one that felt isolated and alone, and like I said, just couldn't make friends no matter how hard he tried. He's still there. And that little boy was the one that really fell in love with that feeling of numbness. And that's what made me, I'm not going to say that's what made me, but that's what enticed me to continue to drink the way that I did, because I loved that feeling. I loved that numb feeling. No matter what was going on, I could get drunk and I could forget all about it. But the crazy thing about it is that, I would get completely intoxicated, forget all about it that night, of course, black out, pass out, wake up the next morning, and guess what? That problem was still there. It was still haunting me the next morning. And the thing is, it just was 10 times worse now, because I felt horrible. Here I am throwing up off my back porch or into the toilet. I've got to be at work in the next hour, and I'm just trying to piece everything together, just so I can get up and go to work. And here it is, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on my second cocktail for the day. So many days, I just didn't want to get to that point that early, but I don't know. I don't know if I didn't mean to, or subconsciously I just went ahead and drank to that point because I did want to feel that way. I don't really know. But that problem was still there. It didn't go anywhere. I just forgot about it for one night. And that's why I say on here all the time, don't be fooled into having that one drink because you're having a bad day or you're having a great day or whatever the excuse is to drink just for one night, because it never pans out that way. The cycle begins again, and then next thing you know, before you know it, you're caught completely right up in that cycle all over again, and you can't find your way out. And I was in that cycle for so long. I mean, from the time I was, I don't know, probably 15 years old, when I was really hitting it hard at that age, up until just a couple years ago. That whole chunk of my life right there was spent being intoxicated, and every single day. And that became my main goal in life, was just getting drunk or getting high, whatever it was, whatever I could do to numb those feelings. That's all I cared about. And it's the reason I come on here every single day to share with you guys, you know, my life, the things that I've been through, the experiences that I've had, and how my drinking led me to where I'm at right now. You know, the thing is, I get a lot of people commenting and saying, you know, not a lot, but I do get a good bit of people that have said, especially here recently, man, you look really good. There's no way that you have liver disease. Unfortunately, I do. I wish that I didn't. If you're so inclined, scroll all the way down to the very bottom of my videos, and you'll find the very first video that I did. That was done in March of 2023 or 20. It was 2023. Yeah, March of 2023. I had just gotten out of the hospital with pancreatitis. I mean, just gotten home, and decided to make my first video. You know, I had promised myself and God that I was going to talk about this and I was going to do these videos. But I looked so bad. I didn't feel comfortable recording myself. And trust me, I tried over and over again. And I was like, I can't post this up. My face was so thin. I looked so bad. I just didn't feel comfortable recording myself and posting it up on the internet. That was the point where I felt the most comfortable. I felt like I looked decent enough to go on there and make a video. And you can just look at me and tell that I was really, really ill. And throughout these years, or throughout the, not years, but throughout the time since I started the channel, you know, like I said, which was March. It was almost 2 years ago when I started it. But when I did my very first video and then completely forgot about it because I had so many surgeries after that. I had quite a few surgeries after that, and then throughout that summer. And then it wasn't until November of 2023 when I found, my wife and I, it was Thanksgiving Day, we were sitting down to watch television that morning before we went to our family's house for Thanksgiving. And that video popped up. And my wife said, isn't that the first video that you did, or the video that you did a while back? And I said, yeah, it is. And we noticed it had 27,000 views. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not expect that video to blow up like that. I just didn't. I thought maybe I might get a couple hundred views, maybe. But that's not what happened. And a lot of people saw it, and there were a lot of people who were concerned if I was still around. And I felt like I needed to do a follow-up video and just let everybody know I was still here, that I was still doing okay. And I posted that video up, and, you know, here we are now. I've been continuing to make videos almost every single day since then. And creating this channel has really helped me to realize that I can be my authentic self. I don't have to pretend to be somebody that I'm not for people to like me. I can be kind to people. I can be gentle. I can speak in a gentle tone. I don't have to be loud and obnoxious and knock things over and do crazy stunts for people to appreciate who I am as an individual. I have to say that starting this channel has really helped me to realize that, which has been a part of my sobriety journey. Because I really had a hard time with that basically my whole entire life. And it all stemmed from a very young age. You know, maybe if I hadn't have gotten so deep in the alcohol and all the other things that I was doing, maybe I could have worked on myself and had a little bit more self-realization of who I really was. But I didn't do that. Instead, I just continued to drink, and I drank to the point to where my depression just got even worse and worse and worse. Because at that point, you know, I just wanted to get out of it. I was so tired of being sick and tired. And I just wanted to stop, and I could not figure out how to do it. I kept trying. I'd get a week under my belt of sobriety, and the next thing you know, I told myself, oh, you've got this all under control now. We can have a 6-pack of beer on a Friday and Saturday night, and that's it for the week. Well, it just never worked out that way. I get a week under my belt, and the crazy thing about it is, too, and for you guys watching, you know what I'm talking about. It's not easy. Especially like that first week of sobriety is so hard. You don't know what to do with yourself. You feel so uncomfortable. The withdrawals are horrible. You feel sick. You don't feel like you even in your own body. You feel disassociated with yourself. I mean, just every aspect of it. It just sucks. And you go through all that. You're not getting any sleep. You feel sick. You have no energy, no motivation to do anything. And then you get all the way to the end of that week. And then all of a sudden you start to feel better. And that's what always happened with me. And then next thing you know, I'm right back in the cycle again. And then I'd get, a couple months out of drinking, and I'd look back and think to myself, like, why did I go back to this again? Like, I was there. If I had just kept going, who knows how much sobriety I could have had, but I just couldn't do it because I let that person on my shoulder talk me into doing that every single time. And I'd fall right back into that pattern all over again. But like I said, from the beginning of this video, I really think that the majority of my drinking and why I continued to drink the way that I did is because I was not comfortable with me. Be comfortable in your own skin. Be comfortable with who you are. Whoever you are out there watching this video, if you feel like you can't be yourself around people, if they're not going to accept you, then maybe find a new group of people to hang around with, people that will accept you. Because you're beautiful just the way you are. You really are. Each and every single one of us is different in our own beautiful way. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true. It really is. Be comfortable with who you are. Accept who you are. And don't let people tell you otherwise. Like I said, if the people around you keep telling you to change, if who you are is not hurting anybody, let me put it to you like that, because if who you are is a bad person, then maybe you need to work on that. But if who you are is a good person, you don't hurt anybody with your actions or what you do, or your personality isn't bothering anybody, then continue to be who you are and don't worry about what the other people say. Like I said, just be yourself. Don't let that bother you. And don't let the alcohol control you to thinking that you need to be this other person, because you really don't need to. Like I said, for so many years, my whole entire life, I portrayed someone I was not. This person that you're seeing here right now, that's speaking into this microphone, is the real me. It is. I'm a nice, quiet person. I don't bother people. I don't get in altercations with people. I try my best just to mind my own business. If I see somebody in need, I try to help. That's who I am, and unapologetically so. I don't care what anybody has to say about me anymore. I don't care if people don't like who I am. If they don't like who I am, then that's fine. You don't have to watch the videos, or you don't have to be my friend. You don't have to talk to me. I mean, it's completely fine. And it took me a long time to realize that. And I hope that by me sharing this today about the fact that I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that I tried to be somebody that I wasn't. And it didn't work out for me at all. And it wasn't something that I could do, naturally. I needed the alcohol in order for me to pretend I was this other person. And as soon as I started drinking, it was like clockwork. As soon as I got that first few cocktails into me, and I started to feel that looseness happen, and I just started to morph into this other person. I really did. And just looking back on all the crazy stunts that I pulled back in the day, all the embarrassing things that I used to do, I mean, it is what it is at this point. And I can't go back and change any of it, but it is. It's really embarrassing. There are a lot of people who will never speak to me ever again because of some of the stunts that I pulled back in the day, some of the things that I said to people. We had to go to my youngest son's. He had an award ceremony a couple weeks ago that we went to. I'm not going to get into what all it is and everything, but it was an award ceremony for my oldest son. And while we were there, I bumped into somebody from my past, somebody that I knew in my 20s. They were really good friends with my next door neighbor. I knew him really well too because we were both in the restaurant industry. I used to see him all the time. And this guy used to really look up to me too. He was a little bit younger than I was, and I knew that he looked up to me. He used to tell me that all the time. And one night, in my drunken stupor, I said something to him. He had actually come over to my next door neighbor's house to visit. And like I said, I used to live in a neighborhood, and we would all hang out in our garages. My next door neighbor lived right beside me. I lived on a corner lot, and then there was my next door neighbor that lived right beside me, so I didn't have anybody on the other side. But this guy that lived right next door to me, him and I were really close. And then this other guy that I'm speaking about was in the restaurant industry. He was actually friends with a couple of my friends, and we had become friends. And like I said, this guy really looked up to me. Every time I saw him, he was so respectful, always so nice to me. He would always talk me up anytime I see him and tell me, how great of a job that I do in the restaurant industry and all this kind of stuff, and how he looked up to what I did. And he was just a really super nice guy. One night he came over because, like I said, he was at my next door neighbor's house, and I was hanging out in my garage, and I happened to see him over there, and I hollered at him, "Hey, man." And he came over, and I had just had a pool built in my backyard, and I wanted to show it off to him. So he came over, and I walked around and showed him everything, with the pool. And while I was doing that, I just made a comment to him. And I'm not going to get into what I said, but it was something that was very, very rude. But I thought I was saying something funny. It wasn't funny at all. As a matter of fact, it was very disrespectful. I shouldn't have said it. I'm not making any excuses for myself at all. But I was highly intoxicated when I said it. And from that day forward, he never spoke to me ever again. And I would run into him all over town. And he would be like, "Hey, man," but before that, he would stop, speak to me. We talked for half an hour. If I ran into him at the grocery store, we would stop and talk to each other for a long time. Anytime after that, it was always like, "Hey, what's up?" And then that was it. And just like any other time after that, I saw him at this award ceremony. His kid was there as well, but he was sitting right behind me. I turned around and said, "Hey," and he just, "Hey," and that was it. He's still upset with me because of what I said years ago to him. We're talking about something from 20 years ago, and he's still upset with me, and rightfully so. And that just goes to show that my actions, the things that I used to do back when I was a drinker, that I would say something that would upset somebody, they wouldn't speak to me 20 years later because of it. All because I thought that that's the person that people like to be around. And it's not. It really is not. Be your own authentic self, and don't worry about what the other people think about you or anybody says or thinks about you. The people that really like you, really enjoy your company, that are your true friends, they'll stick around, or you'll find those certain individuals becoming your authentic self. Now, I don't have a lot of friends. All of you here, I'm friends with, but people that I see on a weekly basis or anything like that, or people that I hang around with, spend time with, around where I live. There's not very many people like that anymore, but the ones that I do have are real friends, true friends, people that'll do anything for me, people that actually love me, and I love them too. They're really good people. But now I'm my own authentic self around them. I don't have to pretend to be somebody else. And on top of it too, one of the biggest things as well is that, back in those days, I used to tell a lot of stories. I would lie a lot, try to inflate who I was I wanted to impress people, so I was always telling stories, lying to people, or whatever. Especially in my addiction, if I had to tell a lie in order to get my bottle, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I can't tell you how many times I told somebody I'm out of cash today or whatever, and I don't have any money, and I need it for this or that, and somebody would hand me a $20 bill or something. I went straight to the liquor store and got alcohol because I didn't have any money to buy my booze. I just needed it. I don't do things like that anymore, and everything that comes out of my mouth is the truth, and I don't ever have to worry about, I told this person this and I told this person that, and I'm going to show up to this place and they're both going to be there, and how am I going to cut? That kind of stuff used to go through my head back in the day. I used to get so afraid knowing that I was going to go somewhere and there might be somebody I told one story to and another person I told another story to, and I was worried they'd come together and ask me something at the same time and I might get called out or busted for lying, and I don't do that anymore. Everything that comes out of my mouth is the truth, and I don't ever have to worry about covering my story or anything like that. That kind of stuff used to keep me up at night. It really did, because of the amount of stories that I told. And I don't have to worry about that anymore. I sleep well at night knowing that everything that I've said is the honest to God truth. But I think that's about it, guys. And I think that's why I started drinking the way that I did. There's more to it. There are some other things I think that added to it. But for the most part, it was because I didn't feel like people would like the authentic me. And in order for me to portray this other person, it took me getting intoxicated to transform into this other person. And the more and more that I did that and continued to portray this other individual, the more and more I got depressed. Because I knew that I had to continue to be this certain individual that I was trying to portray, and it wasn't me. And I didn't feel comfortable around people unless I was becoming that person. I really thought people wanted the wild and crazy me, and at the end of the day, they didn't. I think people would have much rather have been around the person I am today, and I wish I just could have realized that at a young age. But it is what it is, and there's nothing I can do to change it. And all I can do now is continue to try to develop myself, continue to do these videos daily, and try to help as many people as I possibly can. And I feel that by coming on here every single day and revealing my truth and being, as open and as honest as I can with you guys to, at the end of the day, to really try to help people realize that they're not alone on their journey and the things that they've been through. After speaking with so many people, thousands of people I've spoken to since I started this channel, that we're all so similar in our stories. It's really, truly unbelievable. So many of us, not just, the way that we drank and all that stuff, but our beginnings, how we ended up the way that we are. So many of us are so similar in that sense. And like I said, I just feel like coming on here every day and just being open and honest, I think helps people realize that they aren't alone, and that there are other people who have experienced these things as well. So anyway, guys, like I said, I dealt with a lot of depression, basically my whole entire life. And when I was a teenager too, I did go speak with a psychologist or psychiatrist, whichever one it was, and they put me on all this medication and stuff, and I didn't like the person that I was when I was on it. I really felt disconnected from myself when I was on those medications, and I felt like self-medication, either smoking broccoli or drinking alcohol, helped me be more creative. It helped me become a different person. I wasn't always in my head worried about my life and things that I was going through and stuff like that. You know what? It was an escape from reality. It really was. And that's the reason I drank. And then it became not about any of that anymore. It became that I actually really needed it. I had become dependent on the alcohol. And at that point, none of that mattered. All that mattered was I needed it just to live every single day. I needed it just to feel normal. When I say I woke up with the shakes every morning to the point I couldn't even hold a glass in my hand, I'm not kidding. And until I got that certain amount of alcohol, that right consistency in me, until that, I didn't feel right. I didn't feel like myself. I didn't even feel like a person. Those are some really sad days. And all I wanted was out. And if that's what you're feeling like right now, you know, you're stuck in this loop and you just can't get out of it and you've tried so many times, trust me when I tell you, you can do it. I did it. And I never thought that I would ever get sober. At the end of my drinking, I was drinking a half a gallon of vodka every single day. And here I am, sober. Never would have ever imagined that I would be here right now. It is possible, and I believe in each and every single one of you. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here for today. I really do appreciate you watching, and until tomorrow, I will see you guys then. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. So until tomorrow, I will see y'all then. Bye-bye. Love you guys so much.